Well, Happy New Year! Welcome back to Kevin's Trooper channel. This is the channel where we do all types of DIY projects for overlanding and off-roading. So if you like that kind of thing, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and join our great group of guys that we have here that watch my videos every single week. And I've got a fun one for you today. Today, we're going to be pulling the coils and plugs out and putting my new tube camera down in the cylinders to see what this 3.5 looks like. You know, whenever I bought the Trooper, the seller had assured me that the engine had been rebuilt about 5,000 miles before I bought it. And I was a little skeptical of that, but honestly, every test that I've done to determine if that actually did happen has shown that it probably was done. He had photos of the rebuild with the serial number of the engine. The Trooper was disassembled in the background. Everything is coming together that may have actually happened. The compression test that I did not too long ago on the engine showed that the compression is still great on this thing, like a new engine. So I think it might have actually happened. But what we're going to do today is we're going to get a look down in these cylinders with a camera to see what it looks like on the inside. And we're also going to be putting new plugs in while we're at it. You know, when I first bought the Trooper, I put new plugs in it, but I put those E3 spark plugs in it. And so what I've got now is I've got some double iridium spark plugs from Bosch, which I love all Bosch's stuff, that we're going to be putting down in there in place of those E3s. I'm curious to see if it's going to run any different. So don't go away. We're going to get that started coming up. Check out the new merch. Okay guys, the first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna remove our coils. And I've made a box here with an F for front, and I have 6 holes. And I'm gonna be placing my coils in the order that I take them out, so there's no way to get them mixed up. I do this whenever I'm changing anything where I need to keep my parts organized. I will make a box that represents the engine, and I will place my parts the way they go in the engine so that I can't get them mixed up. Now the first thing that I'm going to do is just very gently unplug my electrical connectors from my coils. As gently as I possibly can be, because I do not want to break one of these. And they can be pretty stiff sometimes. As a matter of fact, I think I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the negative battery cable first. Okay, now that I have the negative battery cable disconnected, just out of an abundance of caution, I'm going to go ahead and unplug the rest of these electrical connectors. And then we're going to remove our coils using my beautiful new Nepros ratchet, by the way. This thing is just buttery smooth. Yeah, so this is the first video of 2019. I'm so excited my channel is growing as fast as it is. I really appreciate all you guys tuning in. I work super hard to try to make great content for you guys every week. And make sure that the sound is good and the lighting is good. Alright, so we're going to pull each one of these off. And I'm excited to look down in these cylinders with this camera. You know guys, whenever I was changing the valve cover gaskets on this thing, I was sanding the gasket material off of the back of the engine, and I ended up dropping a little piece of sandpaper down in the block. In the back of the valve, where the valve cover is, in the very back, there's an oil port about like this that goes all the way down into the block of the engine. I didn't know that that was there, and I dropped my sandpaper and it literally went out of sight down into the engine. I was so worried. I was literally shaking. I thought that was it. The engine is going to have to come apart. I didn't think that there was any way I was ever going to be able to get that piece of sandpaper out of there. I was so nervous. So I just set everything down and I just walked away. And I thought about it on what should I do? How am I going to overcome this problem? What I ended up doing was I ended up taking a coat hanger and stretching it out straight. And I put gasket material on the end, that ultra black gasket material. I put a gob of it onto the end of that hanger. And I fished it down into that hole. And I found that piece of sandpaper and was able to get it out of there. It was one of those unbelievable saves that's like, 1 in 1,000 chance. I got so lucky I did not have to pull this whole engine apart to get a little square piece of sandpaper out of my oil port. It was just one of those crazy things that, lesson learned, you got off lucky that time, but it could have been really bad. It could have been one of those things that, you bring this thing to a mechanic and say, I need you to pull my entire engine apart because, like an idiot, I dropped a piece of sandpaper down in the block of the engine trying to get the gasket material off, changing the valve cover gasket. But it worked out. All right, so I've got all 6 of these loose. And these little screws are 8s, by the way, 8 millimeters. So that was a lesson learned, that make sure, if you don't know what you're doing, that you take care not to drop anything down in your engine. That was when I first got this thing. That was when I had barely ever even changed an oil. This thing was leaking so bad and dripping on the driveway, and I had attempted to change the valve cover gasket. It's one of the first things that I did on this thing, and I got it changed and I got it to stop leaking, but I almost cost myself like a several $1,000 mistake there. New coils look like they're really in good shape. I put new coils and plugs in it when I first got it. This back one is a little bit hard to reach. And the back one on the other side is much harder to reach because you have the brake booster in the way. And there's no oil in the spark plug tubes, which there was the last time I did this when I put new coils in. This back one was almost full of oil. So I changed the valve cover gaskets and the spark plug tube seals. And there's the third one. Now let's move to the other side and we'll get that side loose. This is back one right back here. I'm gonna have to get a swivel or something to catch that one. Let's see if this helps us. Oh my gosh, that one's not even tight. That one's finger tight in there. I'm glad I did this. I must not have got it very tight the last time for this exact reason. We're going to have to rig something up a little bit better to get to this back here. Try to get out of the light a little bit for you guys. All right, I got it. Loving my new Nipros ratchet. The first time I drop it, it's going to hurt a little though, you know? And then everything will be fine. Once you drop it once, like when you get a new car, the first time it gets a little ding in it, it always hurts. Being able to turn the ratchet like this and spin it is a big advantage of having these flex head ratchets. It makes for a much faster job being able to do that. If you guys are looking for these, one of these ratchets, these Nepros ratchets, one of the things that really surprised me is the used ones on eBay are more expensive than the ones that you can buy off of the Nepros website. So I don't know what's up with that. It's like people are trying to mark them up or something. It's like they're not back ordered or anything. And there we go. All right, in order to get this back spark plug out, I have to use a flexible extension like so. That's really the only way to get to this one in the back here. Good, that one came out fairly easily. And I did take an air hose and blow the engine off just a little bit at the top. That's not good. We'll see what it looks like when we put the camera in it. Gosh, that's the hardest one to get to too because of this brake booster. It's almost impossible. Wait, those spark plugs look really, really clean though. Oh man, I'm disappointed about that. All right, let's see what the third one looks like. Looking really good there. All right, let's see what we've got in this one. Man, these back ones are such a pain. If it was this side that was leaking, I could do it in no time. That other side is a bear to get to. Nice and clean. And I did put some anti-seize on these spark plugs whenever I put them in. Just a tiny, tiny bit. You don't want to go overboard. You don't want to get it down on the inside, but I put just a little bit on it. And I think I'll probably do that again. Just the tiniest amount. That one looks great. Now, I was looking at my fuel trims the other day, and one of my banks is running a little bit rich. I had a -10 fuel trim on bank, I think it was bank 2. I'd have to go back and look at my data. And I'm not really sure what that's from yet. I don't know what's going on with that. So if it's running rich, that means it's not getting enough air or it's getting too much fuel. And when you think about it, there's only so many things it could be because it was one bank. That's one of the neat things about a V6. And I learned that by watching Schrodingers box. If you guys haven't checked out his site, you should check him out. I've learned so much from him. It can't be too much fuel pressure because that would be both banks, for example. So the fact that it's one bank, it can only be so many things. On a 4-cylinder, it's not that easy. All right. The spark plugs are out. All right, back over to this side. I'm so disappointed by this, y'all. All right, let me get the camera all set up and hooked up to the iPad. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hit screen record, and then I'll be able to put the actual video recorded from the iPad, so we don't have to take a video of a screen. We can put the video right on there for you guys as we look at it. So let me get all that set up and I'll be right back. All right, I think we are set up. And the first cylinder I'm gonna look at is this very, very back one back here that looked like it may have had a leak in it. And you can see here is a picture of the oil seal. But I do see a drip of oil right there coming down. And you can see that right there may have been where it was leaking. And you can see I do have some oil in the edge. You can see the oil right there. And there we go, we're in. And there's the top of the cylinder head. So I can't really see the cylinder walls, but I can see the top of the pistons, and they look really, really good. Just a little thin, even coat of carbon, but there's no carbon buildup. You can see there might be one little piece of carbon buildup right at the bottom of the screen there. But not bad to compare to some of the other ones that I've seen. Now here we go. Now we can see those two cylinders were too close to the top for me to be able to see entirely. Slight carbon buildup around the edge of this one. Overall, I think it looks pretty clean. Right around the edge of the cylinder, a little bit of buildup. Right there. Oh man, it didn't want to come out for a second. That's kind of what I'm afraid of, is getting this thing stuck in here. I wish I could put a 90 on this thing so I could see these cylinder walls. Now let's see what this side looks like. That one looks about the same. Pretty good. Look at this. Well, that cylinder looks to be in great shape too. Little bit of carbon buildup on the bottom of the screen there. On that one. All right, Well, that was pretty neat, being able to see the actual cylinder walls and the top of the cylinder. Some of them have a little carbon buildup on them for sure. You know, honestly, I haven't seen enough engines through a camera like this to tell you what's normal and what's not normal. It is definitely interesting to look at though, huh? All right, guys. Pretty neat. All right, well, that was kind of fun checking out the inside of those cylinders. And you know, like I said, I haven't really seen enough cylinders with a camera from the inside to know what's normal and not normal. They look pretty decent to me. I didn't see anything major in there. I didn't see any major big chunks or carbon buildup. There were a few little spots. I guess that's to be expected. Now, the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to switch from these E3 spark plugs, which I put these in when I first got the Trooper. I'm not really too sure about them. I've been doing a little bit of research on spark plugs, and the very best thing that you can get is in the way of spark plugs for this vehicle are these double iridiums. So I went with a Bosch double iridium spark plug. These things are nice. They look like this. They come with a little cardboard tube. And so yeah, these are really nice looking spark plugs. So I'm going to put these in and we'll get the coils put back in and we'll see if it runs any better with these. When you're putting spark plugs back in your vehicle, make sure that you don't just drop them down in the cylinder, because what could happen is you could end up changing the gap. If this hits the bottom of the tube, you could change the gap on your cylinder. And then the other thing is the torque that you put on these needs to be pretty close, because there's a crush washer on here. And you have to get them tight enough for that crush washer to properly seal, but you don't want to get them so tight that you break them. So the torque value, I'm going to look up the torque value on these and I'm going to make sure that I torque them properly. And I'm also going to put just the slightest amount of anti-seize on these just to make sure, because I'm probably going to leave these in for quite a while. The torque on these is 13 foot-pounds. So most people probably put their spark plugs in way too tight. 13 foot-pounds is not very much at all. And we're just going to put ever so tiniest amount of never seize on these threads. I mean, as little as I could absolutely put on there. And then I'm going to put the spark plug in the spark plug socket and feed it in. And make sure that I hand start it. And then once we get it snugged up, we're going to go to 13 foot-pounds. Very gently. There we go. And that one's in. One thing about anti-seize, if you get it out, it's going to be on everything. And I'm going to try to put even a little bit less on this one. I think you're better off not putting any than putting too much. Probably you would be fine not putting any. Now the problem with this torque is I'm not going to be able to torque that one at the back on the other side, because there's no way to get a torque wrench in there, but by that time I'll know kind of what 13 pounds feels like, and I'll be able to just hand tighten that one in the back. I know I had the ones that were in here way more than that. You can feel the crush washer. And there we go. I'm going to try something a little different. I'm just going to put a little bit on a paper towel, because that brush has all over it. There we go. Just a little bit. That paper towel works much better. That brush has a tendency to come out a lot. Probably a little Q-tip would work really good too. All right, that one's hand tight. Now a lot of people will just go to hand tight and then go about a quarter of a turn or something like that. But that was a lot more than that. That was hand tight, and then it probably turned 3/4 of a turn right there. So that's pretty hard to say. Everybody's hand strength's different. You know, it's kind of hard to say that. All right, so that's that bank. The engineers could have left us just a little bit more space on this side. I mean, this is ridiculous. I was doing the 40,000 mile service on my mom's RAV4 this morning, and man, she's got so much room in her engine bay. Of course, I think those come with either a 4 or a 6, and hers is a 4, so I guess that's why she has a little bit extra room. But I did her service, rotated her tires, changed her oil, did her cabin filter. This paper towel is the trick, guys. Definitely more controllable than that brush that comes in this thing. See, let's see what hand tight means. Alright, so there's hand tight. So that was about a half a turn past hand tight, if I had to guess. And I have this set on 15, not 13. I like to go just a pound or two over on the torque. Like, for example, my lug nuts, I think it's 86 pounds, and I always set mine on 90 or 95. All right, let's see if we can get a little bit more anti-seize on here without making too big of a mess. All right, there we go. And this is going to be the last one. then I can use this. And I may not be able to get my torque wrench in there on this one. And there's hand tight. Yep, there we go. Now I especially want some on this one just because it's so hard to get to. And this one's going to be a big old guess. I think I got it started straight. So keep in mind, guys, there's a valve cover bolt back here against the firewall that you have to try to get to do the valve covers. And it is not easy. All right. Let's see. Yeah, I don't think that's working. I didn't feel it move at all. Yeah, I don't trust that at all. I'm gonna see if I can rig up something that's a little more secure. That one wasn't even started to be tight. It wasn't even hand tightened yet. Something's weird with this. Let me see. All right, I think that got it like that. That's what I was afraid of. Give me my socket back. That worked. All right. And always reset your torque wrench to 0. That way it stays nice and calibrated. This Tecton is pretty good. I've been pretty happy with all their tools. And you can see I have my coils right here in order. One of the things that I didn't do last time that really helps, especially with these little oil drips and stuff, is take just a little dielectric grease. Just put a little bit of that on there. If you want to make sure that your screw stays on your socket, and I know you guys have seen this before, but some people may not have. That's the way you do that. All right, I think that one's tight this time. We're going to plug that one in. A little dielectric grease. And there we go, guys. We are all finished. That's new plugs. We checked the coils. We looked down in the cylinders. I think everything's healthy. This thing hopefully has thousands and thousands of more miles left on it. Let's get our battery back connected. Well, let's start it up. Let's see how it runs. Well, guys, that was interesting, taking a look deep inside the cylinders of our 3.5 liter V6. And we're gonna keep talking about that fuel trim and see why that thing is running slightly rich, only at idle and only on bank 2. There has to be a reason, and we're gonna figure out why. Why don't you comment below why you think it might be running rich, only on the second bank and only at idle. Well, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and join our great group of guys that we have here that watch my videos. And remember to give me a thumbs up. Why? Because it means a lot to me. Thank you, guys. We'll see you in the next video.